I'm Tom, and you're watching Bullets, Brass and Ballistics. And now I feel like a newsreader. Anyway, back on subject. ES and SD, extreme spread and standard deviation. What are they and why do I care? Well, ES, extreme spread, is simply the measurement between your slowest round and your fastest round in a string of shots. Standard deviation is the difference in velocity from your mean velocity of your group. So from your average velocity for your group fired, it is the difference from that average, from that mean. Generally speaking, poor SDs, i.e. higher figures, will show themselves in the form of vertical groups. So if you can see vertical stringing at 100 yards, say, in your group, then that's generally an indicator that the SD isn't great. I'll put up a couple of pictures of targets that I shot during load development, and you'll see that the first group is smaller than the second group, but I actually went with the second group because the ES and especially the SD figures were far superior. And what I've given up in group size at 100 yards, I'll get back further down range. If you remember about that cone of dispersion, that cone of error. How do we get ES and SD figures? Well, we use some form of chronograph. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you. When I got my first chronograph, all I cared about was velocity. I just want to see them bullets screaming, because that's all we all really cared about. And if you could push your bullets over 3,000 feet a second, it made you feel good and you went home happy. Well, things have moved on a bit since then, and velocity is no longer king. There we are. I feel so much lighter and better about myself. Thank you for listening. This is the one that a lot of you will be familiar with, which is an optical chronograph, and it basically has two light bars. You shoot through the gap. Disturbs light bar number 1, starts timer. Disturbs light bar number 2, stops timer. It's that simple. Then some clever computery thing does the stuff and it makes that into feet per second. Anyway, we have magnetic chronographs. I don't have one of those here, but for example, the magneto speed is a magnetic chronograph. They're the ones that generally attach to your barrel. And again, very simple, similar technology. It detects disturbances in the magnetic field over 2 measured points. So bullet, metallic bullet disturbs magnetic field at point 1, starts timer, disturbs magnetic field at point 2, stops timer. Clever computery thing with feet per second, happy days, we know our velocity. And then the third type is the Doppler radar. To my mind, absolute game changer. Absolute game changer, but we'll come back to that in a second. So, as I say, I don't have a magnetic chronograph here, but this is the one that we all managed with for years and years and years. And by the way, I haven't got it upside down. This is the Caldwell turning the game on its head chronograph, and it's meant to be this way up. But what are the issues? Well, they're bulky. Yes, this one strips down to smaller and fits in a carrying bag and all the rest of it, but you've got to take it apart, you've got to put it together. You've got to put it on a tripod or hillbilly up some form of pallet or wobbling it on a chair or something. It's got to be 6 feet from the muzzle. You've got to shoot through here and over these light bars. And apparently, so I've been told, it is relatively easy to shoot these if you're in a hurry. I mean, I'd never do a thing like that, honestly. But these become a real chore, and they actually put you off going to do any range work or load development before you've started, because you know you've got to set the damn thing up. Anyway, still do the job, still give us the information we want. They give us ES, they give us SD, they give us velocity per shot. Attached to a smartphone, bim bam bosh, they've got an app, you know, really, really good, really good. But as I say, slow, cumbersome, that's the limitations. The magneto speed type, strapped to the end of your barrel, away you go. Great, brilliant, don't work with suppressors. And as I'm sure you know, anything attached to your rifle affects velocity, affects point of impact, etc., etc. So again, not and I know, yes, there are ways around that, and yes, people have made them work with suppressors, but out of the bag, out of the box, yeah, issues. But still very, very good. Still give us those three key pieces of data. And then we come on to the Doppler radar. In my humble opinion, this is a game changer. If you're serious about shooting, if you're serious about whether you're getting into long range, you want to improve things, you want to tighten up your data, these are an absolute must-have. They should be in every shooter's bag. I know they're not cheap, they're about 500 odd quid, but well worth the expense. Literally turn up, ping out the supplied included tripod, set it down, turn it on, tell it your velocity range, tell it your bullet weight, put it 5 to 15 inches from the muzzle and crack on. As I said, with the conventional chronograph, 6 feet from the muzzle. If you're shooting on a range, you can't go forward of the firing point to bugger about with your chronograph. With this one, you just bang it on the bench and crack on. If you're out shooting for the day, I mean, look, we all know lots of environmental factors change velocity. I can put a group together in August and shoot in January, and I will get different readings. I will get different velocities. I will get different ESs. I will get different SDs. That's just the very nature of it. Temperature affects velocity. Air density affects velocity. Altitude affects velocity. So what better if you're shooting a match, or, you know, even, you know, going somewhere you haven't shot before? Put that out, literally, bang it out. You know, it doesn't matter if you're shooting off a bipod, doesn't matter if you're shooting off a bench, just bang it out. Instantly, you know your velocity for that moment in time. Absolutely massive game changer. So why are ES and SD important? I feel like a newsreader again. Anyway, well, to be brutally honest, if you never shoot beyond 300 yards and you're happy with your rifle's accuracy and you're happy with the consistency of your ammunition, then you don't. You do not need to worry about ES and SD. But if you want to stretch the legs on your cartridge, if you want to push yourself a bit further, if you want to shoot at longer range, then they become absolutely critical. ES, as I say, that's the measure of your extreme spread from your slowest round to your fastest round. And really, that's about consistency of your ammunition. You can get a snapshot. Big ESs, say 60, 70, 80 feet per second, you know, it gives you an idea of how it's going to shoot, and it won't be that great. But as I say, at 100 yards, it could shoot bug holes. SD, so SD, standard deviation, that is the deviation from the mean of the group you've shot. Now, as with anything sciencey, the more data you put in, the better data you get out. I know a lot of guys shoot 3-shot groups. I do shoot 3-shot groups for testing, but for load development and for data analysis, I shoot 5 or 10-shot groups. I mean, you can dive on the interweb or YouTube, and, you know, the Ballistic Kings, you know, the Brian Litzes, the Jaden Quinlans from Hornady, and Brian's from Berger and Brian Litz Ballistics. You know, they'll talk about shooting sample sizes of 25, 50, 100, 500 rounds. Well, don't know about you, my budget and my dislike of rebarreling rifles knocks me out of that field. But I still, the more I shoot, the better the data. You might not necessarily like the results, but they're going to be more accurate and honest results. And by not liking the results, I mean that it's much harder to shoot a 1/4 inch 10-round group than it is to shoot a 1/4 inch 3-round group. But it will be accurate, honest data, and that is the key. So, good data in, good data out. So, how do we affect our SDs and our ESs? Well, if we hand load, then obviously we can try load development. You know, we can change primers, we can change powder charges. Generally, they're the two biggest ones that affect velocity. Bullet seating depth can, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And we're not trying to necessarily gain more velocity. What we're trying to gain is that consistent velocity, because consistency is key. In a perfect world, if we could get an ES and an SD of 0, happy days. That meant that every single round did exactly the same thing, same speed. Obviously, there's no variance because they're all shooting exactly the same. In reality, it doesn't happen. But you can get low, and what we'd really like, where we're really trying to get to, is single figure variances for both. So SD, we really want that as low as we can go. Low single figures, absolutely fantastic. ES, we can have a little bit of flexibility, you know. It's not quite so vital, but in a perfect world, we'd like both of those to be in single figures. I'll put up a screenshot of some of the information that I picked up with my 6.5 PRC from hand loads. And you'll see the data collected, and you'll see that I've managed to achieve both single figures on both of those, and that actually is my extreme range load. However, as I mentioned earlier, it will shoot differently in July than it did from January, so always just double check. And don't forget, all you've got to do is change your velocity in your ballistics apps or your data. You know, that's the only change, but it's a huge difference. So why is it important? Well, let's say we're shooting at 1,000 yards. At 1,000 yards, a velocity variance, an SD variance of 25 feet per second, depending on caliber, obviously, and your starting velocity, but a variance could be as much as 15 to 25 inches of drop. That's huge, you know, and as I said to you, you could have a load that's got a hideously high extreme spread and a horrid standard deviation, but at 100 yards it shoots 1/4 inch groups all day long. And if you don't shoot it out past 300, that's fine, but you've got a cone of error. So let's talk about MOA. So one MOA, I'm sure we all know, equates to roughly, it's not exactly, but it equates to roughly 1 inch at 100 yards. And because of that cone of error, that cone of dispersion that gets bigger with range, one MOA at 200 yards is 2 inches. One MOA at 300 yards is 3 inches, etc., etc., etc. So to shoot one MOA at 1,000 yards is 10 inches. Now we've just said if we've got you know, high standard deviation, then we're not going to be able to achieve that, because our error from that high standard deviation is bigger than the group we're trying to shoot, for example. And also, if you've got a spotter or you can spot your own fall of shot, you might make adjustments that have got nothing to do with you or the atmospheric conditions. It's just that variance in velocity from your standard deviation, and so you can end up chasing the target, and it happens all the time. I'll put up another screenshot of some factory ammo, and it's very good factory ammo, but you'll see the figures and you'll see the differences. And I've shot that factory ammo out to 1,000 yards, but the results speak for themselves. You know, groups from the 6.5 PRC shoot comfortably. MOA, if I do my bit, you know, that's 77. I mean, okay, look, shooting a 223 at 1,000 yards, you know, it's hard anyway, but, you know, the groups just, I mean, it's an achievement to get it on paper. But that's really what it boils down to, you know, capturing accurate data, and then working out what to do with that data. Get those figures down into single digits if you can, and your group sizes, your long range shooting will improve dramatically. Don't forget, if you can shoot a 1/2 inch group at 100 yards, there's no reason why you can't shoot a 1/2 inch or half MOA group, 5 inches at 1,000 yards. You've proven you've got the capability. That's about the size of it. I hope you picked up something. I hope you found it interesting. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated to know that you guys are out there watching and hopefully enjoying. Until the next time, cheers.